This is Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement with Mark Cordner, the podcast.
Lots of folks saying prepare for a 10% correction, and a lot of folks get nervous, clutching their pearls, as they say. And it got me thinking here, these events will probably happen multiple times during your retirement. So if you're still working and this puts a pit in your stomach, how are you going to feel in retirement? Think about that just for a minute. And I want to get to our friend here, Steve Zosnick. He's from CNBC. He says right now we need to get our ducks in a row and be defensive.
Right now, you want something that's a bit recession-proof, because the bond market, with the moves that we're seeing, they're screaming at us right now to tell us that they think we're looking at a recession. So this sort of bodes for a bit more of a defensive posture until we can really see if this is a temporary storm or bumpy landing, so to speak, or if it is indeed a harder landing.
Okay, so Mark, what do you think about this?
I think that's an ongoing issue. I don't think it's something we respond to in terms of the most recent headlines. And that's a curious thing, because a lot of people get to hyperventilating, they get a little bit of neuroses about what's happening in the market each day. And I think that's unfortunate, because my clients don't do that. Once they understand the science and the art behind what we're doing, they don't have those kind of anxieties. The truth is that the market is just like the ocean. There are waves, and the nature of the beast is that it's going to go up and down. And if we're not willing or able to withstand that, if we don't understand how it works, then we shouldn't be participating in that. But the truth is, most of us should be to some degree, because we need to outpace inflation, and the market has been the greatest wealth generator over time. But we build portfolios that are designed to withstand these hiccups that happen, because they will happen. And this idea of trying to tie it to a recent event, like we've heard a lot of, I would call it gibberish this weekend, people trying to point to the election or some recent statement by a candidate or something like that. They're trying to kind of force a causality to a recent event. I think that's kind of foolish, because we're in a globally integrated market, and the reality is that a hiccup in Beijing has a ripple effect across the world, but we can't tie every market bump or drop to a specific event, with rare exception. I mean, certainly 9/11 kind of big events were shocks to the whole system, but generally speaking, these ups and downs are going to happen. So we just have to build portfolios that accommodate that. We believe in what's called a two-pocket approach in my office, and that means that a portion of our money should be in completely safe accounts that are principal protected, so that when the market goes down, we can reach into those safe pockets of money and we're not impacted, meaning those people that are in retirement who are living off of their savings. And then when the market rebounds and goes back up, well, then we reach into those pockets and we can enjoy the growth that's happening there. But we don't spend our life obsessing about, the yo-yo of the market, as it were. There's a great story told in the investment world of, how people are inclined to watch the yo-yo that a little boy is playing with as he walks up the mountainside. They're seeing the ups and downs of the yo-yo and missing the entire fact that he's made it up the side of the mountain. And it's really about that long-term growth that we're looking at. The further we step back from a mountain range, the greater our perspective, the more smooth that looks. And so we just have to step back sometimes and take a healthier perspective on things. And we need to structure our portfolio so there's preservation strategies built in.
So I found this new study that says that 61% of retirees would rather preserve their money than grow it. The study also found 65% wanted guaranteed income for life, and 69% reported discussing loss prevention with their advisor. So I want to know where you stand on this, Mark. Does the fear of losing money work against some people to the point to where that, they just can't grow their money enough to fund a long retirement?
I think it could, but that's certainly not my experience with our clients, because we build, again, that two-pocket approach I was referring to a minute ago, so that they're able to participate in the markets, but without the bulk of their wealth being exposed to potential losses that could harm them. And so, again, we just have to build those guardrails in. But it's an interesting curiosity that as we get older, and as this finish line, as this transition into retirement and the finish line of life, as it were, starts to kind of narrow our vision and kind of focuses our mind, people start thinking differently about time. And ultimately, volatility has to do with time. When the markets go up and down, that in and of itself shouldn't be keeping us up every night. But if it goes down at a critical point in our season of our life where we need that money, well, then it can hurt. And so it's all a function of time. Do we have time to rebuild? 20-year-olds don't worry about the market the way 60-year-olds do. And it's because the 60-year-olds are looking at time differently. They realize all too well that time has become a scarcer commodity than it was when we were much younger. And when we don't have the time to rebuild, then we have to start protecting against things like what we call sequence of return risk, which refers to the variability of positive and negative returns in the market, something that we can't individually control, but which does coincide with our retirement plan. So we have to have preservation strategies in place. And you're exactly right. The studies are overwhelmingly clear. The older people get, generally speaking, their mind goes towards preserving those years and decades worth of effort that created the wealth that they've accumulated. They don't want to lose it. They're far more worried about losing it than they are of getting sexy returns.
And I think right there, that's a concern in itself, that if you're concerned about losing all your money, if you're concerned about your position in the market, Mark, sitting down with you, putting together that roadmap to navigate retirement, this is a great way to figure out where you stand. Do you understand how much time you have on your hands, first of all, the sequence of returns? How possible is that for you? And then, of course, your risk versus reward in the market. Tell me what that process is like when it comes to putting together this roadmap for retirement.
Well, typically when we meet with people, we're very often presenting a 10-section binder, one section of which directly addresses that portion of their portfolio which we're proposing be invested in the market. And when we do an analysis of someone's current portfolio and we make a proposal for a perhaps different portfolio, then we always measure for them what kind of volatility is inherent in that portfolio. There's wonderful software tools that we can utilize to actually put a score, what we call a risk score, to a particular portfolio. So it tells us, relatively speaking, on a scale of 1 to 100, where a particular portfolio lands compared to another. And it also gives us a range of potential negative versus potential positive returns in a given period of time. And we can do it with about a 97% accuracy in any given 6-month period. So it really does help calm the nerves, as it were, for people who really have not had any idea of how much risk they have in their portfolio. So what people tell us they want and what they've actually had are often two different things. And so this analysis process brings to light, where have you been? And then we can contrast, where would you like to be? And we can make changes in the portfolio so that they can have the peace of mind where they don't worry about these headlines. They really don't worry about the headlines, and they go live their life, which ultimately is our great goal. We want to get people, and it typically takes a period of time, sometimes as long as 12 to 18 months, for what we're saying and what the client is hearing to really line up. But once that clicks for them, it's a wonderful kind of epiphany, because suddenly they quit worrying about money and they go live the lives that they want to live, which is really our ultimate goal, because hopefully our lives are not about money. Money is just a fuel, of course, and we've got to safeguard it, because we got to get the fuel to get through the Mojave Desert, as they say. I live out here in the desert, We've got to be serious about the fuel storage, but we fill up and then we drive and go enjoy our lives.
To play devil's advocate here, Mark, for those listening that say, oh my gosh, I don't care about this 10% correction they're talking about, and I don't need to come in, and get another plan put in place, because the guy I'm working with says, just hold steady, don't panic, stay the course, it'll come back. What's your advice there?
Well, I believe as well that it will come back, but I don't believe that the universe always cooperates with my personal timeline. And that's I think the distinction, because you think of our friends back in 2007 and 8, when everything went upside down. I think here in Las Vegas, the people in the construction, real estate, and mortgage industries who were just devastated by job losses and the contraction of the economy. And then they had to start living off of their retirement savings earlier than expected. And because the market, unfortunately, really dropped severely during that time period, it created some real damage to their portfolios, because they were living off of their savings at a time when the market was down, which causes a premature depletion of the accounts. And only now, here we are 15 years or so later, where people are really feeling the pain of the choices that they had to make during that time period. So I don't subscribe to this idea that don't worry about it because it will bounce back. I do believe it will bounce back, but I don't necessarily believe that those things, again, cooperate with our individual timeline. So sometimes we have to adjust our expectations. Maybe we work a year or two longer. Maybe we spend a little bit less. Maybe we pull our retirement income out of different sources. We don't pull them out of market-based sources. We pull them out of principal-protected sources that are not being affected by the market. And so we're not hurt. It buys us time. That's the key thing, because we don't have time for things to rebound. If we have principal protected accounts in place and we pull from that, then it buys us time for the market-based accounts to rebound and get back to where we need to be. So again, I call it a two-pocket approach. It allows us to respond to whatever's happening in the market. We can reach into whichever pocket is most advantageous. And if people don't have a two-pocket strategy in place, I say, come talk to us. Learn more about this, because it gives peace of mind. We can't guarantee anything in the universe, but we can significantly increase the peace of mind that a person has with their portfolio by implementing these safety strategies, really.
Investment advisory services offered through Golden Years Financial LLC, a registered investment advisory firm. Insurance is offered through Golden Years Insurance Services. These firms do not provide legal or tax advice. Consult your own legal and tax advisors before taking actions that may have tax implications. Investing in securities involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Insurance contracts principal protection is based on the claim-paying ability of the respective insurer. None of the information contained on this website shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit to buy a security or insurance product. The information and opinions contained on this site or requested from this site are provided by third parties believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are provided for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. Any media logos and or trademarks contained herein are the property of their respective owners, and no endorsement by those owners of Mark Cordner, Golden Years Financial, or Golden Years Insurance is stated or implied.